You ever sit somewhere, in a place that's supposed to be perfect, everything looking exactly like it should, but feel this cold knot of wrongness in your gut? Like the air is too still, the smiles are too wide, and the polite conversation is just a thin sheet of ice over something dark and deep? That was me, celebrating 23 years of marriage. My name is Melissa. Daniel and I were marking our 23rd wedding anniversary. 23 years. It felt like a lifetime. And in many ways, it had been. We were at a fancy Italian place downtown. White tablecloths, soft lighting, the clinking of silverware and quiet murmur of other diners. Daniel had picked it out. He always had a flair for picking places that looked just right. He raised his glass of wine across the table, his smile wide, practiced. That smile. I knew it well. It was the smile he used when he wanted something expensive, or when there was a camera on him, or when he was trying to project an image to the world. Tonight, it was set firmly in place. He looked good, I guess, mid-40s, still keeping himself in shape. Charming, when he wanted to be. He wore a suit I'd bought him. I wore a dress he'd complimented. Everything looked perfect. To us, he said, his voice smooth, maybe a touch too loud. 23 years, to my beautiful wife, Melissa. He took a sip of his wine. I smiled back. A real smile, tinged with something I couldn't quite name. Unease? Fatigue? My own hand trembled slightly as I raised my glass to meet his. The ice was getting thinner. Something felt profoundly wrong. It was too perfect. Like a stage play where the actors are hitting their marks, but the emotion is all fake. I needed a moment, a breath. I excused myself and headed for the restroom. The restaurant's restroom was just as fancy as the dining room, all marble and soft lighting. I splashed some cold water on my face, trying to shake off the feeling. What was wrong with me? 23 years was a milestone. I should be happy. Celebrating. Why did I feel like I was standing on the edge of a cliff? As I was drying my hands, the door opened, and a woman I didn't recognize walked in. Mid-30s, maybe, dressed simply but elegantly in a green dress. She glanced at me, hesitated, then walked over to the sink next to mine. She didn't turn on the water. She leaned in slightly, speaking in a low, urgent whisper. "Excuse me," she said, her eyes meeting mine in the mirror. They looked concerned, serious. "I think you need to be careful." I frowned. "Careful? What do you mean?" "Your husband," she said, her voice barely audible. "The man you were sitting with, at the table by the window." My blood went cold. "Yes? What about him?" "I was walking by your table on my way here." She continued quickly. "I saw him take a small package out of his pocket. It looked like powder. He waited until you and the other people at the table were distracted. Then he quickly stirred it into your drink." My heart stopped. Literally. For a second, I couldn't breathe. "Put something in my drink? Daniel, why?" My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. A joke? No, her face was deadly serious. Are you sure?" I stammered. "I'm positive," she said, her eyes holding mine, conveying a sincerity that chilled me to the bone. "I don't know what it was, but you shouldn't drink it. Please, be careful." She gave me one last earnest look, then quickly turned and walked out, leaving me standing there in the silence of the restroom, the soft lighting suddenly feeling harsh, exposing something terrible. My mind was a whirlwind of panic and disbelief. Daniel? Putting something in my drink? Why? What was it? My legs felt shaky. I leaned against the sink, trying to regain control. This couldn't be happening. Not on our anniversary. Not ever. I walked out of the restroom and back towards our table, The hallway seemed miles long, the air thick and heavy. Every step felt like wading through water. My breath was coming in short, sharp gasps. As I approached the table, I saw him, Daniel, laughing, leaning in towards his sister. Chloe. Chloe was sitting next to him, looking perfectly attentive, a small smile on her face. Adam. Chloe's husband and Daniel's brother-in-law was across from them, also engaged in the conversation. Adam. My brother-in-law. A vague, unsettling feeling flickered at the edge of my awareness. Something about the way Daniel was leaning in, the look on Chloe's face. But my mind was too fixated on the warning, on the drink. The glasses were still on the table. Mine. Daniel's. They looked identical. My heart hammered against my ribs. I had to think fast. I couldn't just dump the drink. That would cause a scene. Alert him if he was watching. I walked back to the table, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Sorry, took a moment, I said, my voice hopefully sounding normal. I sat down. As I reached for my wine glass, I fumbled slightly, pretending to be clumsy. My hand bumped Daniel's glass, nudging it closer to me. In the same seemingly awkward movement, I quickly, subtly, swapped our glasses. Mine, the poisoned one, potentially, was now in front of him. His was in front of me. He didn't seem to notice. He was still talking, laughing with Chloe. I picked up the glass that was now in front of me, his original drink, and took a sip. It tasted fine. Normal wine. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. I watched him. A cold, terrifying suspicion gripping me. About 12 minutes later, the server came to clear plates and offer dessert. As he spoke, I saw Daniel blink slowly, heavily. He blinked again, deliberately, as if trying to clear his vision. His mascara was smudged. Wait, Daniel doesn't wear mascara. It was his eyelids. Heavy. Drooping. He laughed at something Chloe said, but the laugh was too loud, slightly slurred. He reached for his water glass, his hand unsteady. Then, he tried to stand up to talk to the server, but his knees buckled slightly. He put a hand on the table to steady himself. He mumbled something, couldn't get the words out clearly. His mouth seemed loose, his pupils slightly dilated, distant. It was happening. Whatever he had put in my drink, he had just consumed it himself. I stood up quickly, putting an arm around him. Whoa, honey, maybe too much wine? I said, playing the concerned wife. I gently helped him back into his chair. Just a little tired, he mumbled, his head lolling slightly. He leaned against Chloe's shoulder, his eyes half closed. He's had a long week, Chloe said, ever the understanding sister. Must be hitting him. They all assumed he was just drunk. But I knew. The chilling certainty settled over me. He hadn't been putting sugar or some harmless prank powder in my drink. He had been trying to incapacitate me. Why? As Daniel leaned heavily against Chloe, mumbling something I couldn't quite make out, his arm around her, my eyes met Chloe's across his slumped form. She looked slightly uncomfortable, maybe, but not surprised. No, not surprised at all. The pieces, the ones I had deliberately ignored for years, snapped into place with horrifying clarity. The late nights at the office, the sudden business trips that came up last minute, the hushed phone calls he'd take in the other room, the way he and Chloe were always just a little too close, too familiar, their private jokes, the way they'd look at each other sometimes. My brother-in-law, my husband's sister. It wasn't just a sibling bond I was seeing. It was something else, something sickening. He wasn't just trying to drug me. He was trying to drug me on our anniversary, at a fancy restaurant. With his sister. My sister-in-law. Right there. The betrayal wasn't just about an affair. It was about intent. About a plan. A terrifying one. Something inside me snapped. Not in a loud, dramatic way. In a quiet, steel-like way. The hurt, the shock, the fear, they were all there. A screaming storm inside my head. But outwardly, I was calm. Controlled. A cold, hard resolve formed instantly. They thought they could do this. They thought they could betray me, drug me, perhaps leave me vulnerable, and get away with it. Not a chance. Not a single damn chance. He's had a bit too much, I think. I said to Chloe and Adam, forcing a tight smile. Maybe we should get him home? Oh, yes, probably for the best. Chloe said quickly, helping me ease Daniel more upright. Adam looked a little pale. Quiet. While Chloe and Adam helped Daniel stand, I quickly, subtly, used my phone under the table. I texted the one person I knew I could trust implicitly. My brother, Mark. He's not a private investigator, but he knows people. He's discreet and fiercely loyal. My text was short. Need major help. Discreet PI Rex ASAP. Financial personal, like yesterday. His reply came almost instantly. Got it. Sending contact now. Are you safe? Yes, for now. We'll explain soon. Just as we were helping Daniel stumble towards the exit, he leaned against me, mumbling again, his voice slurred. Thanks, Lise. Then, clearer, he mumbled a name. Adam. He mumbled Adam's name. The lover wasn't Daniel's sister. Chloe. It was Adam. Chloe's husband. My brother-in-law. The world swam for a second. My brother-in-law. Adam. Always so charming, so friendly. The one I thought of as family. And Chloe. His wife. Daniel's sister. Was she in on it too? Or was she just as blind as I had been? The depth of the betrayal. The twisted relationships. The absolute audacity of it all. It was almost unbelievable. Almost. We got Daniel into the car. Chloe and Adam rode with us, squeezing into the back. Daniel was mostly unresponsive, slumped against the window. In the rearview mirror, I saw Adam texting constantly, frantically. Chloe looked stressed, but was quietly helping hold Daniel upright. On the way home, playing the role of the concerned wife. I told Chloe and Adam, I can't imagine what happened. Maybe he mixed the wine with some medication he took earlier? He hasn't been sleeping well. Planting the seed of doubt, creating a plausible explanation for anyone else. I glanced in the rearview mirror again. Adam was still on his phone. That confirmed it. He was messaging someone. Likely Daniel, if Daniel was able, or maybe someone else involved. I made a mental note. Get Adam's phone records too. My phone buzzed. Mark had sent Tyler Vance's contact information, a highly recommended private investigator, known for discretion and getting results. Tyler's initial availability message popped up. I replied, Need you starting tonight. Discretion paramount. We'll brief fully tomorrow, a.m. This is big. Tyler's simple reply. Consider it done. Sending secure contact info. Back at the house, with Chloe and Adam's help, I got Daniel upstairs and into bed. He was dead weight. As I looked at his face, slack and unresponsive, he looked almost childlike, innocent. But I knew the truth. Nothing about Daniel was innocent anymore. Nothing about any of them was. Once they left, with promises from Chloe to call in the morning. I locked the door behind them. The house felt cold, empty. Despite being filled with furniture and memories, I wasn't angry yet, just numb and determined. I went to the garage. In a dusty box on a high shelf were some things I'd bought years ago, during a brief spell of paranoia after a series of burglaries in the neighborhood. discreet GPS trackers, tiny audio recorders. At the time, I thought it was excessive, maybe even a little crazy. Now, I wished I'd bought more. It turned out I wasn't paranoid enough. I took a small GPS tracker and, working quickly and silently in the dark garage, attached it magnetically high up on the metal frame under Daniel's car, the luxury SUV I'd practically paid for. I placed a tiny audio recorder in his briefcase, hidden in the lining. Another in a lamp base in the living room. It felt violating. Wrong. But they had stripped away my right to feel wrong about it. They had invited this level of suspicion and defense. Then I went into Daniel's closet, to his gym bag. He always carried it, even if he wasn't going to the gym, claiming he might go later. I had a hunch. Deep inside, under sweaty clothes and towels, I found a burner phone. A cheap, prepaid phone I'd never seen before. It was locked, but I took photos of it. The serial number, the contents of the bag around it. Evidence. The next 3 days were a blur. I played the role of the concerned wife, hovering over Daniel as he slowly recovered from being drugged, acting sympathetic, making him tea. He was groggy, confused, complaining he felt awful, like he had the flu. He didn't seem to suspect I knew anything. He seemed genuinely bewildered by how sick he felt. The thought that he had willingly planned for me to feel this way twisted something ugly inside me. While I was acting, Tyler Vance was working. He worked fast. By the end of the 3rd day, I had an initial report that blew everything wide open. Tyler's report was clinical, detailed, and devastating. He had managed to access encrypted communications. He didn't say how, and I didn't ask. He had tapped into digital footprints, cross-referenced data. He confirmed my suspicions about Adam. Daniel and Adam had been renting a suite at a specific downtown hotel. Not occasionally, but weekly. Every single Thursday afternoon, like clockwork, for the past 4 months. They used fake names. But Melissa, my sister, not me in this story. Let's adjust. Let's use a fake name like Diane for the fake ID Melissa used in the outline. Correction. The outline uses Melissa as the cheating wife and Ethan as the brother-in-law lover. I've changed the protagonist to Melissa, the husband to Daniel, the sister-in-law to Chloe, and the brother-in-law lover to Adam. Let's stick to this. Okay. So the outline says, Melissa used an old college ID, even called room service. Champagne, strawberries, massage oils. This detail applies to the cheating spouse in the outline. In my version, that's Daniel. So Daniel used a fake ID, or Adam used a fake ID. The outline implies the spouse's ID was used. Let's say Adam used Daniel's old ID. Or they concocted a fake one for Daniel. Or maybe the ID detail is just a colorful addition that isn't crucial to the core plot logic. Let's focus on the fact of the hotel, the fake names, the regularity, and the room service. Tyler's report included itemized hotel bills under the fake names, confirming the weekly pattern and the room service orders. Champagne, expensive food, sometimes massage oils, a regular, luxurious tryst. Tyler had also managed to obtain surveillance footage, not from the hotel room itself, but from the hotel hallway, lobby, maybe elevators. Small clips. Showing Daniel and Adam entering the hotel together, leaving together. Showing them interacting in public spaces. One short clip, seemingly innocuous, showed Daniel and Adam walking down a hallway, laughing about something. Daniel leaning in close to Adam, looking at him with an expression I hadn't seen directed at me in years, relaxed, genuinely amused, affectionate. It was chilling. Seeing that level of comfort and connection between my husband and my brother-in-law, knowing what it meant, was physically painful. Tyler also sent a few short, grainy videos from Adam's phone backups he'd accessed, short clips, maybe intended for private viewing. showing Daniel in the hotel room. One clip, less than 10 seconds. Showed Daniel after a shower, wrapped in a towel, laughing at Adam off camera, his hair messy, his smile wide and uninhibited. This was the video from the outline. It wasn't just evidence, it was a punch to the gut. That relaxed, happy Daniel. He hadn't looked at me like that in years. I watched it over and over, not because I needed the proof anymore, but because I wanted to understand the depth of the deception, to feel the full sting of the betrayal, to sear it into my memory. I didn't want to numb it. I wanted to remember exactly what they had taken and what they had done. Tyler provided logs and content of messages between Daniel and Adam. Hundreds of texts, emails, planning the rendezvous, intimate exchanges, discussions about their future, how long they would have to keep up the facade with me. They talked about me in those messages, casually, dismissively, as an obstacle, a means to an end, someone who didn't understand them, someone who was holding Daniel back. It was cold, brutal confirmation of their contempt. They discussed the anniversary dinner, how it was a necessary performance. They even briefly mentioned the plan to handle me that night, confirming the drugging attempt, though not explicitly stating what the substance was, just that it would make things easier. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable. They weren't just having an affair. They were living a double life, planning a future together, manipulating me, dismissing me, and attempting to drug me on my anniversary. My husband and my brother-in-law, the man my sister-in-law was married to. The layers of betrayal were staggering. I didn't confront Daniel immediately. I waited. I continued to care for him as he recovered, observing him with a cold, detached gaze. He was oblivious, still playing the role of the recovering patient. He even apologized for getting too drunk at the restaurant, mentioning he couldn't remember much after dessert. The lie slid off his tongue effortlessly. I spent the next few days finalizing my plan. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down. That's what they expected. That's what they would portray to everyone else. No. My confrontation would be calm, factual, and utterly devastating. I would dismantle their lies with proof, dismantle their lives with action. I decided the setting would be here, at our house. Sunday family lunch, the usual suspects, Daniel's parents, his sister Chloe, and her husband Adam. The perfect audience to witness the perfect family's unraveling. I met with Tyler Vance again. He provided me with physical copies of everything, printed emails and texts, itemized hotel bills, stills from the videos, a secure digital file with the video and audio clips. He also gave me advice on presenting evidence effectively. I met with a lawyer, not to file for divorce yet, but to prepare the paperwork, a full divorce petition, asset division proposal, leaving Daniel with next to nothing, as I had largely funded our lifestyle and assets over the years, a fact I had meticulously documented, and a demand for him to sign away any claim to alimony. The lawyer was initially taken aback by the evidence, particularly the drugging attempt, which elevated it beyond simple adultery. I spent hours organizing the physical evidence. I put the printed documents into a binder, indexed and tabbed. I loaded the digital evidence onto a tablet, ready to connect to our living room TV. I practiced what I would say. Short, sharp sentences, factual statements, no emotion, just the truth. I also made another crucial preparation. Several months ago, I had quietly transferred the ownership of our house, the one I had paid for the majority of the mortgage and all the major renovations on, into a trust with Emily as the sole beneficiary, with me as the trustee. Daniel had signed papers months ago without reading them properly. Just another batch of investment documents I handled. The house was legally mine and Emily's, not his. This was a strategic move I had made subconsciously, perhaps. Sensing the instability, but it was the key to my final act of taking back control. The final detail: packing. While Daniel was at work on Friday, I packed several large suitcases with my clothes, Emily's clothes, essentials, personal documents, photos. I took them to a storage unit I'd rented. I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I was ensuring they would be left with nothing but the wreckage. Sunday arrived, the day of the family lunch. The house was clean, tidy, the table set. The aroma of food filled the air. Daniel seemed fully recovered, back to his normal self, unaware of the storm about to break. Chloe, Adam, and Daniel's parents arrived. Smiles, greetings, polite conversation. Adam avoided my eyes. Nervous. Chloe seemed relaxed, maybe a little tired. Daniel's parents were their usual cheerful selves. We sat down for lunch. The same beautiful dining room, the same familiar faces as the anniversary dinner, minus the fancy restaurant setting, plus his parents and sister. Midway through the meal, during a lull in the conversation, I stood up. I held up my water glass. Everyone looked at me. "I'd like to make a toast," I said, my voice clear and steady. I looked directly at Daniel. To family. I glanced at his parents and Chloe. To transparency. I looked at Adam. And to the truth. They all raised their glasses, looking slightly confused by the unusual toast. "Speaking of truth," I continued, setting my glass down, "there's something important I need to share with everyone. It involves Daniel and Adam and a little party they've been having without me." The air in the room changed instantly. Chloe froze, her eyes wide. Adam's face went white. Daniel, halfway through taking a bite of food, stopped chewing. His parents looked at me, bewildered. "Melissa, what are you talking about?" Daniel finally managed, his voice strained. "I'm talking," I said, walking over to the living room and picking up my tablet. "About the truth behind those late nights, those business trips, and your little Thursday afternoon get-togethers." I connected the tablet to the TV screen. The screen showed a list of files. I selected the video folder. "You see, Daniel, Adam," I said, turning back to them, holding the tablet. "I know about the hotel, the one downtown, the suite you rent every Thursday." Chloe gasped. Daniel's parents looked horrified, not understanding yet. Adam was rigid, staring at me with a mixture of fear and hatred. "I know about the fake names you use," I continued, my voice flat. "I know about the room service, the champagne, the strawberries, the massage oils." I selected a video clip and played it, the short, grainy hallway footage. Daniel and Adam walking into the hotel together, looking relaxed, laughing. Daniel leaning in. It was short, but it was undeniable. Silence. Stunned. Horrified silence. Daniel stared at the screen, then at Adam, then back at me. His face a mask of disbelief. His parents were looking at the screen, then at Adam, their son-in-law. Chloe was staring at Adam, then at Daniel, her face crumbling. "As you can see," I said, stopping the video, "my husband and my brother-in-law checking into a hotel together, every Thursday for the past 4 months." I showed another video, the one of Daniel in the hotel room wrapped in a towel, laughing that free, genuine laugh. "This is Daniel," I said. "At the hotel, laughing, looking happier than I've seen him look in years. He doesn't look at me like that anymore." Daniel finally found his voice, a choked whisper. "Melissa, you put cameras? You're spying on me?" "Spying?" I scoffed, but kept my voice low. "Was I spying when you put something in my drink on our anniversary? Daniel, was that just a misunderstanding?" His face went pale again. The others gasped. What? Daniel's father exclaimed, looking at his son. Drugged her? It wasn't like that, Daniel stammered, looking panicked. It was just something to help you relax. You're always so stressed, so critical. To help me relax? I repeated, my voice laced with cold disbelief. On our anniversary? While you were planning to come home and… What? Leave me vulnerable? Was Adam coming back with you after the restaurant? Adam flinched. He knew I was connecting the dots. And what about this? Daniel. I brought up the message logs on the tablet. Hundreds of messages between you and Adam, planning your trysts, talking about your future, talking about me, calling me an obstacle, saying I didn't understand you. I showed them emails, discussions about timing, about finally being together, financial details I didn't understand yet, but which clearly involved long-term planning. It's not just an affair, I stated, looking at everyone at the table. It's a life you've been building, a secret life, using my money, my time, my stability as your cover. Daniel finally seemed to grasp the magnitude of what I had. The video, the messages, the hotel bills. I projected scans of some itemized ones. The admission of the drugging attempt heard by everyone. He slumped back in his chair, defeated. Adam looked like he wanted to disappear. Chloe was crying silently. Daniel's parents were staring at their son and son-in-law, their faces a mixture of horror, disgust, and profound disappointment. Daniel looked at me, his face desperate. Melissa, why are you doing this? You're destroying everything, our life. Our life? I gave him a thin, humorless smile. There is no our life. Daniel, you ended that. You say I'm too critical, too stressed? You say I'm boring? That I didn't understand you? Was that your justification? Did that give you the right to lie? To cheat? To drug me? To build a future with my brother-in-law behind my back? He mumbled something inaudible. You claim I'm boring? I continued, my voice rising slightly, but still controlled. The woman who worked weekends to pay for Emily's private school, who managed our investments, who paid off the mortgage on this house, who bought you that car you drive, who planned our vacations. The woman who provided the stability for your charming life. And you? You're the exciting one? Sneaking around in hotel rooms with my brother-in-law? You were just a safe choice. Melissa, Daniel suddenly blurted out. The mask of defeat briefly replaced by defensive cruelty, echoing the likely words from Adam or the messages. A provider, a stable base. I needed more. I felt trapped. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. Daniel, I said, walking over to the front door. You needed someone to pay the bills while you looked for excitement elsewhere. You needed a comfortable cage to escape from periodically. And you found your partner in deceit right here, in the family. I opened the door. There, neatly stacked by the door, were the suitcases I had packed. I'm not trapped anymore. Daniel, I said, walking back towards the dining room, leaving the door open, the cold air rushing in. And neither are you. I picked up a large envelope I had placed on a side table. This is it, I said, holding up the envelope containing the divorce papers and asset proposal. The end of the performance. The end of the lies. I looked at Daniel, then at Adam, then at Chloe, then at Daniel's parents, their faces stunned, horrified. You thought you were so clever, I said, building your secret life, planning to discard me. But while you were busy in hotel rooms every Thursday, thinking you were so discreet, I was busy too. I walked to the head of the table again. I was getting proof, getting legal advice, preparing for this exact moment. I held up another document. And I was finalizing the transfer of this house deed. To me and to Emily. Months ago. So, Daniel, this isn't your house anymore. Daniel's eyes widened in utter shock. Adam looked like he might be sick. Chloe buried her face in her hands. Here is the ultimatum, I said, my voice hardening, cutting through their silent horror. You will gather your things, anything that is unequivocally yours, by midnight tonight. You will sign these divorce papers and the asset proposal. You will agree to zero alimony. You will walk away from this house and from my life. I looked at Adam and Chloe. Adam, you will do the same. You will leave this family gathering, and you will stay away from me, from Emily, and from this house. Chloe, you need to decide who you are loyal to, your cheating husband, or your brother who enabled him, or me, your sister-in-law, who was betrayed by both. I turned back to Daniel. If you do not comply, Daniel, I will use every piece of evidence I have. The hotel records, the messages, the videos, and the proof that you attempted to drug me. I will destroy your reputation. Professionally, personally. I will ensure everyone knows exactly who you are and what you did. You will lose everything you value. Don't test me. For the first time since I had known him, Daniel's practiced smile was gone. His arrogance, his charm, his composure, all shattered. His face crumpled. He looked at me. Truly looked at me. Maybe for the first time in years, with a look of utter, pathetic defeat and disbelief. You're not the woman I married, he whispered, his voice broken. No, Daniel, I replied, my voice cold, final. That woman begged you to be present, to be honest, to be her partner. She died a little more every time you chose someone else. Chose a lie? I am the woman who buried her. I walked back to the front door, leaving it open, the cold air filling the ruined dining room. I picked up one of my suitcases. Get out, I said again, addressing the room. My lawyer will be in touch regarding the signed papers. Your things can be shipped to you once they are packed and inspected. I walked out of the house I owned, leaving the perfect family tableau shattered behind me. The sound of soft crying and sharp whispers following me into the cold air. I didn't look back. I didn't care where Daniel, Adam, or Chloe went, or who they called. My part in their toxic dance was over. The woman who loved Daniel. The woman who hoped he would change. The woman who desperately wanted the life they pretended to have. She was gone, buried in the wreckage of his lies. I drove to the storage unit, then to a hotel I'd booked. I called my daughter, Emily, who was away at college. I kept it simple, telling her Dad and I were separating, that I'd explain more soon, that she was loved, and that her home with me was safe and permanent. She sounded shocked, sad, but surprisingly understanding. Kids see more than you think. The next morning, the house felt hollow when I went back briefly with the movers to oversee Daniel collecting his immediate belongings, under the watchful eye of my lawyer's paralegal. But it also felt clean, like a toxic infestation had been removed. Daniel was pale, haggard. He didn't meet my eyes. Adam wasn't with him. Chloe was looking furious and scared. Daniel tried to talk to me, to plead, but my lawyer's paralegal calmly stepped between us, stating all communication must go through legal channels. Daniel left, carrying a couple of boxes and a suitcase, 23 years, packed into 2 trips to the car. Over the next few days, the fallout spread. Daniel's parents were devastated, caught between their son and the undeniable truth. Chloe was reeling. I heard from my brother, Mark. He had pieced things together, confronting Chloe and Daniel. He was disgusted by their actions, especially Adam's betrayal of Chloe and Daniel's betrayal of me and Emily. Mark sided with me, fiercely. He became my rock, my connection to a real family bond. He helped me navigate the emotional and practical complexities, offering unwavering support. He made it clear to Daniel and his parents that he stood with me and Emily. Adam tried to contact me once. A pathetic text message trying to explain, to apologize, saying he was stupid. I didn't reply. I blocked his number. Chloe, however, reached out, raw, hurt, betrayed by both her husband and her brother. We talked, slowly, tentatively. She was in shock, grappling with her own husband's deceit and her brother's cruelty. She chose to leave Adam, starting her own painful process of rebuilding. She apologized for not seeing, for not being there for me, for her brother's actions. Our relationship, once just sister-in-law formality, began to transform into something real, forged in shared pain and a mutual need for authentic connection. Daniel's lawyer contacted mine. He received the divorce papers. Daniel was furious but cornered. The evidence I had was overwhelming, particularly the drugging attempt, which could have serious legal repercussions beyond divorce. He had no leverage. My lawyer made it clear: sign or face a public, messy, potentially criminal process that would ruin him. During this time, I went through old photo albums, page after page of smiles, holidays, birthdays, anniversaries. Daniel was always there, always smiling that practiced smile. But looking back now, I saw it in so many pictures. His eyes weren't truly connecting with mine. He was posing, playing a part. It was unsettling to see the performance captured in stills. I packed those albums into a box, a record of a life that looked perfect but was built on lies. I took a day off work. I drove to a quiet lake upstate, a place Daniel always said was too boring. I sat by the water, watching the ripples, breathing the clean, cold air. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of peace. Freedom. I wasn't afraid of losing Daniel anymore. I was only afraid of having stayed, of continuing to live the lie once I knew the truth. That fear was gone now. Tyler texted to say Daniel was panicking, that his lawyer was trying everything. I didn't reply. It was out of my hands now. A package arrived a few days later. No return address. Inside was a letter. 6 pages. Handwritten, from Daniel, rambling, self-pitying, blaming me. You were never really happy, were you? Trying to justify his actions. I felt suffocated. Admitting Adam wasn't the first, but claiming he still loved me, just not in that way anymore. Not a single word of genuine apology or remorse for the pain he caused, for the years of lies, for the drugging attempt, just excuses and deflection. I read it once, felt nothing but a cold emptiness, and burned the letter in the fireplace that night. It was just more performance. I sat down with Emily, explained the divorce simply, honestly, without unnecessary blame, but stating clearly that Daniel had made choices that broke our trust and fractured our family. She didn't cry. She just nodded, her face sad, but understanding. I guess I always kind of felt something was off. "Mom," she said quietly, "can I live with you?" My heart ached for her, but also swelled with love. "Always, honey," I told her, holding her close. "You always have a home with me." The next week was filled with lawyer meetings, paperwork, quiet evenings with Emily and Mark. Chloe visited, our conversation still cautious, but real. We talked about things that mattered, not just surface pleasantries. It was a different kind of family bond forming. Daniel appeared at the house one evening, unannounced, tears streaming down his face. "Melissa, please," he begged, looking lost and pathetic. "Can't we fix this? Put things back? He reached for me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just looked him in the eye, my gaze steady and cold. You ended this, Daniel, I said, my voice flat. Final. Not me. You broke it beyond repair with every lie, every betrayal, every Thursday afternoon. I'm just the one burying it now. He dropped his hand, his face falling. He turned and walked away without another word. That was the last time I saw him. Weeks turned into months. The house felt warmer, more peaceful. Emily's laughter echoed through the rooms again. I slept soundly, without that knot of unease in my stomach. I redecorated the bedroom, replacing everything that reminded me of Daniel with things that felt like me, like us. Photos of Emily, art I loved, comfortable furniture. Emily said the house felt less fake now. I found peace sitting on the porch swing at night, watching the stars. Something Daniel always considered a waste of time. He needed validation, praise, status, money, attention. He never needed peace. Chloe and I talked more often. She was dealing with her own difficult divorce from Adam, who was facing consequences of his own actions, both professional and personal. Chloe admitted how she had initially dismissed my marriage problems, how she had hated the way Daniel treated me sometimes, even before she knew the full truth about him and Adam. She saw how I had believed in Daniel more than he deserved. She said I deserved so much more than the life he gave me. The divorce was finalized swiftly, without any dramatic court battles. Daniel signed everything. He had no choice. I kept the house, full custody of Emily, and the majority of our assets. Daniel kept his car, his lies, and a small apartment downtown. He sent one final message through lawyers. Perhaps one day you'll realize I wasn't enough for you, Melissa, and maybe that's okay. I smiled when my lawyer read it to me. It didn't hurt. The man he was trying to provoke, the woman he was trying to hurt, she was gone, replaced by someone who knew his worth. Finally. The day after the papers were signed, I took Emily to that fancy Italian restaurant. We sat at a different table, far from the window. There was no family, no fake toasts, just me and Emily, sharing a pizza, laughing, talking honestly about her college life, my new job, our future plans. It wasn't a perfect life, but it was honest. Emily said she was proud of me for not falling apart. I told her I stayed standing because she was there. My reason to be strong. A few weeks later, an engagement announcement arrived in the mail from Daniel and Adam. With a note inviting Emily and me to their wedding, I felt a brief flicker of something. Not anger, but disgusted pity. I burned the announcement that night. I mentioned it to Chloe. She just sighed. They deserve each other, I guess, she said sadly. She commented on how much I had changed, how I was free. I realized how close I had come to losing myself, trying to hold together something that was already broken, living a lie. I wrote a letter too. Not to Daniel, but to myself. He didn't break you. He freed you. You aren't his shame. You aren't his regret. You are your own rebirth. I keep that letter in my wallet. Daniel and Adam got married. I sent a gift. A photo from their engagement announcement, cut precisely down the middle. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. Chloe and I spend time together, slowly, building a real bond. Emily loves her Aunt Chloe. I feel peace, warmth, freedom. I finally believe I'm doing okay. The year ended quietly. Daniel has completely disappeared from my life. There are rumors I hear sometimes, through the periphery. Arguments between him and Adam, financial troubles, restraining orders filed against Daniel by Adam's ex-wife. I don't care. Their drama is no longer mine. I reflect sometimes on why I stayed so long, why I didn't see it. I realize it was a form of weakness disguised as loyalty, as patience. But that's in the past. Emily says I'm happier now. She understands her mother isn't ready, or perhaps not capable of being the mother she deserves. But she has a stable, loving home with me. I've built a new normal. It's not based on anyone else's approval or expectations. It's built on authenticity, where love isn't a performance or a transaction, but a quiet, steady presence. I'm standing on solid ground now. The story isn't about the dramatic confrontation or the swift divorce. Not really. It's about coming back to myself, remembering who I was before I got lost in someone else's lies, becoming whole again. Not for anyone else, but because I finally remembered I was worth saving. Having gone through all of this, the years of silent unhappiness, the shocking betrayal by my husband and brother-in-law, the complicity of my sister-in-law, the careful planning to expose them, the painful fallout, and finally, building a completely new, honest life with my daughter and supportive brother and sister-in-law. If you were in my position, after exposing Daniel and Adam's deceit, seeing Daniel's pathetic downfall, and having secured your freedom and your daughter's future, would you have been able to forgive